everybody, this is Chris from Stylharmony. Thank you for joining me. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can make your very own molds using only 2 ingredients every time. I'm going to show you 2 methods. If the video is too long, I'll do this in 2 parts. But you'll see it's very easy to do and it's really cost effective, and you will have 2 different results. So this is one of my first results. This is the kind of product you're going to have afterwards. It's quite sturdy, even though I didn't do it really well, so I will show you what not to do. It's a very sturdy piece of silicone here that I have, because of course we are going to use silicone and cornstarch for this example. And it's just a little bit hard to work with because it dries very quickly on you, so you don't have a lot of time to play with this. And it's also really less flexible than this example. This one is really flexible, and it's also made out of silicone. And this piece reminds me of the pieces you use for resin, and also because it's very transparent, or let's say translucent, I think it will work very well with UV resin. I'm waiting for mine. I've just ordered online this morning, so I'll have to give it a try with UV resin, because you need something that is quite translucent when you use your UV light. It wouldn't work in this because also it's too deep, so it wouldn't be able to work, and also too dark in there. So this one is really nice, and it's my favorite, but I'm going to give you the 2 options. You unmold these very quickly. I have done this for the 2nd time, and I've molded this around a little perfume bottle that I had, and I thought it would be nice. So this is my perfume bottle. This is what it looks like, and it really did quite a good job, even though I can improve this. And I made a little bottle. The bottle is in fact this one, but I didn't take a lot of time doing this, so I'm going to try to make it better with the video. And it's just made out of plaster of Paris, so you could do this in plaster of Paris, do this with resin, polymer, clay, air drying paste as well. So I'm going to just show you this. So let's go directly to it. And first thing I want to tell you, when you're going to use your pieces you want to mold, depending on what it is, I would consider putting a light coat of glue on it, just in order to make it like waterproof, because otherwise it might stick to it. And in one of the technique, if you put some kind of oil on it, baby oil, food oil, or anything like that, even maybe Vaseline, because it's a very porous surface. This one is just plaster of Paris, and I wanted to mold this piece, and I'm going to do it in front of you. It's better if you want to make it to stick, put a little bit of glue, just Elmer's glue, in order to have kind of a protection on it, a coat that will not stick to it. If we need later on to put Vaseline or baby oil on it, it will be much easier and it will not seep through. So I've already done this to some of these pieces. You could do exactly the same thing with wood pieces, because the oil is going to go in and it's not going to work. So prep them before. And now let's get to it. So what you will need for this is silicone. So this is the brand I use, whatever it is, it's good for you, that's fine. This one is translucent. I'm going to take the cap off. And for this example, because it's a big one, you need a gun that goes with this. This is about $2 or $3, so it's really not that expensive, and it's really nice to work with. And the way you use it, you pull the trigger here, put it back, and before, I am going to cut a little piece of this. Okay, so I've cut my bottle here, and I am just going now to stick it in here. This should go all the way back. Let me pull it really well. Okay, let's go, buddy. There we go. I'm going to put my bottle in, let go, and do a few squirts. Then what you will need, and I would really recommend using something that is non-porous, something really slick. Here I am using a glass piece, because it's the easiest way also to clean. So here I've put my cornstarch, and I don't need to measure anything. You just put some cornstarch here, and it's going to be messy, so be aware of that. And then I'm going to start putting, sorry for the squeaky noise, some of this silicone here inside, well, on top of my cornstarch. And I wouldn't do a whole bunch if you don't really need it. And when you don't use it, remember to put this back on. Make sure when you buy it that you have the lid. Otherwise it's going to dry on you. So don't do too much because you're going to have a very small amount of time to work with this. Then don't touch this. Don't touch the silicone because it's really hard to get out of your hands. If you want to use some glove, just do it. I'm going to put all the starch, cornstarch, above here and start pushing down. And I've got cornstarch on my hands and starting to mix really well everything. So there's one thing here that strikes me is the smell. The smell is really, really harsh. So, I mean, if you do this, if you want to use this technique, do it, but do it with a very well ventilated area because the smell is so strong, which is not as strong in the second method I'm going to show you, but here it really is strong. The silicone has a really, really strong odor to it, so you might not like it at all. So when it starts to stick a little bit to your hands, put a little bit more cornstarch here. Just dip it in it, and you know, you need to work with this very well because as long as it's still sticky, you have to add a little bit of more cornstarch. And put some on your hands as well. Oh my goodness, this smell is so, so strong. Woo! It smells like, I don't know, maybe like vinegar, white vinegar, but worse. Really strong. So, I need it still a little bit more. I can feel that it starts to stick on my hands after a while. And knead it well. You see it sticking there? So that means a little bit more cornstarch. Maybe potato starch would work with this. Cornstarch is the only thing I can find here, so I'm doing it with this. And it's different from flour, so I would really do this with cornstarch rather than flour. The consistency is really not the same. Now it's sticking a little bit. Add a little bit more cornstarch. It's better to add a little bit at a time, and I don't want to speed up this video because I want really you to see how long it takes to have this mold. It's like a mold putty, but it's going to be less expensive because silicone is really not expensive. You don't need to buy a very big brand. Just buy 100% silicone, translucent if you prefer, and the cheapest is going to do just fine. That's what I did. It's not a big brand, it's just the cheapest I found, and it's going to work as fine as a very big brand. You know, sometimes you just pay the labels or the name, but what's inside is exactly the same. Not always, but very often. Okay, I think it's getting much better. It's not sticking as much on my hands, so that's good. So once you have, and I've got a few pieces I want to get back here, so I'm going to try to put this aside a little bit. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is, yes, I think it's good. It's very, very soft here. It's a little bit like Play-Doh, and if it still sticks a little bit, add just a tiny bit more. And before molding anything, the other thing I would consider, for some of your pieces, I said that you should put some glue to make like a cover or protection on it. And for other pieces, I would consider putting either baby oil or natural oil, or I use Vaseline because it's really, Vaseline, what's good about it is that it's more like a, it's waterproof, so it's really good for this. So, in my example here, which one am I going to use? I'm going to use this one, even though I already put some glue on it. I am going to put a little bit of Vaseline everywhere. So take a, you know, very ordinary paintbrush to do this. I'm using a paintbrush rather than my fingers because I really want to go into these nooks and crannies to make sure I've got my Vaseline everywhere. So take your time. This step is quite important because otherwise you're going to have a lot of troubles taking everything out. So, and also one thing, the hotter your room is, the less time you will have to play with your dough here, your mold putty. It's not a mold putty, but you understand what I mean. So I already try to put this everywhere to make sure it's not going to stick. So let me see if there's, and this Vaseline, by the way, is just made for crafting, so don't worry, I put my paintbrush directly in there. But actually, yes, Vaseline is waterproof. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, and when you have this piece is quite big, you're going to need quite a lot of dough because you can't really do it. If it's too thin, it's going to rip apart. So use something that is quite thick, like maybe half an inch. And you've got different ways of doing it. If you want to do it just in half, do it in half. I'm going to try to do the whole piece. So for this example, and I might have too much in my hands, we'll see. I'll do it again as long as I still can work with this. So I'm making a nice little ball. And I'm kind of making this hole a little bit from the beginning. And then, because I think it's easier to start, you know, if you need to pour something in here, you've got to start from that part. So put it upside down and start going around like this gently. Don't pull, otherwise you're going to go through the dough and you're going to make a big hole. So go gentle here. And exactly, this is the right amount that I needed for this piece. Really, really good. The outside may not look perfect, but as long as you are kind of, you know, really tightening it up, you need to make it tight to really go into these nooks and crannies everywhere. And that will be the quality of your mold if you can see all the details. Of course, this is not professional, okay? We agree on that. But you're going to be able, and this is maybe one of the most complicated examples I just used, but hey, if it can do something like this and works out well, it will do other easier pieces. And don't forget to make a flat bottom so it can stand on itself like this. And now you need to let it completely dry. And you'll know, for me, two days ago, I started doing these molds. And because it's very hot where I live, it dried in about, let's say, less than 30 minutes. It was dry and I could unmold what I had inside here. So maybe for you, if it's colder, it's going to take maybe an hour or two. So don't take me on that time. It really depends about the heat in your room. Okay, so I'm going to make another batch, so you don't need to see me do this. I'm going to do it off camera, and I'm going to show you how you can mold also much easier pieces than this one that was really the most intricate. So I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I'm back, and there's something you can do if you make a mistake like this. For example, that was a little bit too thin at this point, and I've got a hole now. What you can do is take a little bit of your other silicone that I just made and fill up the gap here, the hole. And it's going to stick to the other piece, and it will end up by just making like one just little piece there. Okay? Of course, it's not going to be perfect now inside, but at least I don't have a hole, and if I have to pour something in here, it's not going to leak out. My goodness, this smell is so harsh. So yes, I hope you're not also allergic to silicone. Give it a try. Disclaimers, this is something that works for me. Just give it a try before to make sure that you don't have any allergies or something. Maybe wear a mask if it helps you, but doing this in a very, very well ventilated area is going to help too. So I've made another piece here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the print here of this ring because I really like the shape of it. It's got also quite a lot of details, so let's see if it works. Well, actually, I know it works because I've already done it. So, yeah, to be honest, I know it works. But I just want to show you, and then I will do the unmolding. So again, I'm putting some Vaseline also here, everywhere it could touch my piece of silicone. You could also maybe just put some cornstarch, and always start from a ball. I think it's the easiest way. I don't know if this one is going to be big enough, but let's see. And I am just pressing here my ring into this dough. And I'm still pressing a little bit around it to make sure that it's going to go everywhere into these crevices. And then I'm going to use here a Q-tip, and I'm going to open this a little bit because it's going to be easier to unmold. I don't need to mold this part, at least I don't. So I'm just opening this a little bit, and yeah, let me see, can it stand on itself? No, not really. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this paste. I'm not sure how to call it, dough paste. Maybe dough would be better. And I'm going to make my mold a little stand here, because in the future, if I want to pour something here, I'm going to try to do some resin. I really need this to be as straight as possible. And if not, oops, didn't stick really well. And if not, you can always, when it's time to pour your resin, probably use some sugar or salt, and you put your mold in there to make it straight. If your base is not, you can always manage. Okay, so let me put this in a little bit of cornstarch so it won't stick to my table, and that's good. And I'm going to do another one. It's still very malleable, so I would say maybe you have 10 to 15 minutes to work with this. What am I going to do? I am going to use this button. I like the graphic of the button here. And it's just a regular button, and I'm going to put this inside of here. A little ball, maybe too small again. No, it's not too small. That's just fine. And these are really very easy, simple shapes. So no biggie. I think it's not going to be too. It's a bit thin for me. I think it's too thin. It might rip apart when I'm going to unmold it. So I'm just putting another layer here. So that's nice. And it seems like I have more time to work with this dough than I did yesterday, maybe because it's a little cooler. But it's over 90 degrees or 100 degrees here. I'm going to make sure that I'm not saying anything. It's over 33, 34 Celsius. So it's quite hot. And I don't like to use air conditioning that much, but for my videos, yes, I'm using them right now. We just got the air conditioning in this room since Saturday, so I'm using it. That's great. So also, you won't see this thing, my fan, working here. I think it's going to be much nicer for you as well. And I'm going to use a bead now. Let's see. And it's sticking to my hands, so I'm putting a little bit more cornstarch here. And it's quite fun to play with, except the smell of it. It's just, ugh. Yeah. So I'm putting the bead in here. Go a bit above here, and that's it. And you could do this, I mean, with so many things. With any other beads you like, or you want to make a mold of it, you can do that. And it's really not going to cost you a fortune. So now what I want to show you here is a mold that I made out of this wooden piece. And this piece here is really fragile. It's not thick at all. It's really thin. But I did make a mold out of it. And what I did here is prep it with some glue everywhere. Be careful not to, when you put your glue, don't put a thick layer of glue because you're going to lose all your details. So then go back, use a Q-tip, not a Q-tip, but a toothpick. Go back in here and take all the excess glue because otherwise you're going to lose your details. And for this example, I got this. I hope you'll be able to see it well. And it's not perfect because this is an example. I filled this with hot glue. But look at that, it works pretty well. And hot glue is not going to stick to it. So make sure once this is dry, your mold is dry, clean it out very well. Take all the excess of cornstarch because otherwise it's going to stick to your glue, and this is what happened to me. But otherwise I really like the look of it, and it's shiny because I have put some very translucent what is it called, piñata. You can use your re-inkers on hot glue if you want to color it. Very nice, and it keeps this translucent piece of it. And I did the same thing with this piece, but the problem is I have broken this piece here. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Because this is quite thick and not that much flexible. It is flexible, but not as much as the other one. Okay, I've definitely lost this piece. I could do the print, but I just broke this little piece. So be aware of that. Be careful. And this piece, let me see. Do I have a piece of paper? Yes, better than my hand, right? So this is how it came out. So again, I use piñata ink. You can use your re-inkers because you got to keep that kind of translucent look to it. And then you can put a layer of varnish if you want to make it glossy, and or not if you don't like it. Okay, these are just few things I have made right now. And again, this is made out of hot glue that I've directly poured into my mold. So I think that if I give it a try with resin, it's going to be really, really well detailed because hot glue can never be as detailed. So in here, I'm not going to do more because I think you understood what I was doing. And we will see, and we'll unmold the 3 pieces I did in front of you. I did 4. So I will unmold them in front of you to see how it worked. And here, what I've done in this mold is that I used one of these marbles, flat black marbles. I put it inside. It got out very easily, and I did put a little bit of Vaseline on it just to make sure. It's very smooth. I hope you can see that, and it came out perfectly. And this is what I got out of it. I did 2 or 3 examples. That was made with plaster of Paris, so this is one of my mistakes. I know it's okay. It's just made out of plaster of Paris, but you can use, again, hot glue to put in here. You could probably use also candles. Why not wax? If it's maybe not too hot, you could give it a try. I'm going to give it a try with wax. I love candles, and you can make really nice floating candles. Why not? Look at these. That would be super cute as a candle. Oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to give it a try, and I will show you the end result of it. This is a candle. This is actually a candle that I bought like this. I might make a mold out of this because I want to have more of these because they really look cute. It's supposed to be an apple, of course. So yeah, the end result is just not bad at all. It's just the odor that is really, I'm sorry for the expression, but it stinks. I mean, it does. So with this piece, you're not going to be able to keep it very long outside, so you have to use all your pieces because otherwise you're going to throw this one away. So you know what? I'm going to use this bead. I haven't tried this one, and it's because it's very slick. I'm going to give it a try without because I've got a lot of cornstarch here. I'm trying not to put anything on it, and just, I'm not sure I've got enough though, but I'm going to give it a try. Hey, you know what? I'm going to give it a try, and we'll see. So, oops. Yeah, it's not going to stick to it, obviously. My mold might be a little bit too small for this. I think I don't have enough of this mold, but let's give it a try. And that's going to be a good thing, a good way also to see how resistant it is if it's thin. So I hope I went over there very well. But you will see in my other example with the other, you know, the one that I made like this, that it's more precise. That's the feeling I have, because I can also feel a little bit of gap here, but we'll give it a try and see. So I'm trying to close it up as much as I can, because if I want to make a bead out of this, I need just a little opening. Just a tiny opening. It's very thin. I don't know if I am going to be able to unmold this without ripping it off. So it's going to be, yeah, kind of a challenge, but why not? And you'll see this live. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is clean up this whole mess, and I'm going to come back and, depending, either I wait for this to dry completely, because it's going to take some time today, apparently, and I'm going to show you the second method. So bear with me. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I'm back. So it's time to unmold. So I wanted to do to tell you something. When I did this video today, I used the air conditioning, and it's much cooler. It's about 76, 78, and it gave me a much longer time to play with this dough, with this mold. And I wanted to let you know that if it's really hot, you're going to have maybe 15 minutes to use it. If it's colder and just a few degrees, it's going to change the whole thing, the whole game. And it took me about an hour and a half to make all these pieces dry. And when it's hot, it's going to take only maybe like 30 minutes. So I wanted to make this clear with you. So it's really important, the temperature of your room. So now I'm going to try to unmold this, and that's okay on this side. It's sticking a little bit on the other, but I think I didn't put any Vaseline on this one, but it's getting, oh, I've got a hole. So apparently the inside is quite neat, but I've got a little hole in here. So what I will do, I will make some more, and I will just cover this hole before doing anything else, and make sure in the inside it's going to be smooth as well, so I won't have any bump when I am going to pour something in here, or even using air dry clay or polymer clay if you want to use it. I'm going to do, one of my next video is going to be how to make your own air dry clay. I've tried different recipes, and I'll show these with you as well to see which one works better. So that's okay, but you see this part here was too thin. So not only on the sides it has to be a bit thick, but also on the bottom it needs to be a bit thicker. That's really too thin. So this one worked out great. Now let's see this one. That was one of the last thing I made, and it's much thinner, woo, but it's getting out very easily. And I remember I didn't put anything on this one. I didn't coat it with Vaseline. And yes, and I don't know how long this is gonna last, but I think it's normal, because a lot of molds, when it's circular or with a sphere inside, you have to kind of cut it apart. You need to have some kind of opening to bring it out, and it feels very smooth. And I will do a video next time on putting resin in here. I just need to buy some more, and I will do a video to see how it works with resin, for example. It works really well with, as I said before, plaster of Paris, hot glue, but it's not as detailed as a resin could be. But it works too. So depending on what you want to do and what you want to play with, it will work. So this is my, I don't know if it's my pineapple. Which one is this one? One of the two are my pineapples. I don't think it's this one. So this is out of plaster of Paris that I wanted to make. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, it's okay. Go slowly, don't rip it apart. I try not to put my fingers too much in here. It's sticking a little bit, and I remember I did put something on it, but I think it's going to be fine. I can feel it. Let me grab it. It's round, it's not that easy, but I want to show you real time what it does. How can I go and get in there? Maybe if I would put some soapy water in here. Let's see. Okay, well, I've got a little tiny hole here, but it seems really nice. I can really see the print inside, But again, I will show you this. So it is flexible. It's not as thick as my previous one here. I improved myself. It looks much better. It does stand by itself, so that's good. And so that was my ring. That is going away very easily. And there it is. There it is. I can see all the details in here, and it really looked nice. And I'm going to put my glue gun on, and I'm going to make a quick flower out of this. I want to give it a try to see how it worked. And it didn't damage at all my ring, and still can use it if I want to. So yes, it worked pretty well. There's not a lot of smell now that it's dry, but there was a lot when we were doing it. So yeah, you unmold these quite easily, even quite complicated pieces like these. And this is the one I made out of this. So I will do my resin, and I will show you the really, really important stuff is when you're going to use it as a mold, and especially for resin, see how it works. Again, don't forget, before using it, clean it well. Here I would use a toothbrush, go inside of here, soapy water, and really take away all the cornstarch that is here, because otherwise it's going to stick to your dry air clay, it's going to stick to your Fimo, it's going to stick to your resin, and it's not going to look nice. So really do that before putting anything in here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the second technique that will make this kind of mold that is much more flexible. So there we go. Go and grab a little bit of coffee, and I'll be back in just a second.